another episode of Hard Factor presented by the Barstool News Network. It is Thursday, July 30th, 2020. And one update from earlier this week. We're talking about Medicare for All. People were upset that got left off the Democratic platform this year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which got updated, and the Republican platform didn't get updated. But the lead was buried by everybody because the real shame of what happened that day when they were voting on platform stuff for the Democratic Party is that neither party added cannabis legalization to their platform this year.
Oh.
That was voted down with the same ratio as Medicare for All. So that
Come
was really,
on.
Yeah. So we got neither party wants to fall in love with Mary Jane, have some fun.
I want to make a correction.
Make a ton of money.
Show as well too. We got a DM from a listener who told me what I think is a lie. I don't believe this to be true. But he said that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police no longer use horses.
Yeah, no, that's a lie. We can move right. We can move right past that. That's a lie. Yeah,
we talked about it.
That's someone that really dislikes you or is like a troll. That's
Jake Barbario, and I think that he's lying to me, and I'm not.
No, absolutely. He's trying to get under the beef's skin.
I don't like it.
No, guys, it's Ford Fiestas. I can confirm.
They do ride Ford Fiestas. That is very.
Well, that's
true.
that's like their side piece, but they also each get a horse.
Well, I hope so. I hope that they're keeping those horses employed. With automation and everything, robots.
Hey, you know what I say? Keep it to yourself, Jake.
I don't know. I think I like people keeping us on our toes.
No, I don't like that.
I'm joking, of course. Correct us, but come on.
Talking about Canada is way less fun when people are trying to say that the police don't exclusively travel by horseback any longer.
It doesn't harm any cop cars.
It's not as funny.
Well, why
did they just drive like smaller cop cars than Americans? It's kind of funny.
It would be funny if they were on ponies instead of horses.
I'm just saying, change your name if you're not mounted on horses anymore.
This is depressing. This is
mounted
depressing.
police.
All right, well, let's move it on to such a more uplifting topic: the tech hearing that Mark's starting as.
Yes. All right, let me get into it. Another day, another congressional hearing. The one on Wednesday was a grilling of the four major tech companies' CEOs. The four major tech companies I'm referring to being Alphabet, which is Google. It's the parent company of Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. So Google, Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. And I'll be honest, it might be my bias from being in the tech biz and the fact that I'm a tech junkie that consumes all four of those companies' products religiously, but it was a lot more interesting than the Bill Barr hearing. What do you guys think?
I agree. I thought it was an electric day in Congress. Anytime that you can have groups of old guys who don't really grasp technology asking some of the brightest minds that have to do with technology in the whole world, it makes for a whole lot of fun.
On that note,
that's true.
I was similarly impressed with how unimpressive the Congress people were for a second day in a row in that judicial committee, because I just feel like their questions suck both days. Crap questions.
I had a different take. I thought that they came a little bit more prepared. I think they were more amped up for this one. Maybe the Bill Barr one.
To be fair, I need to hear your updates because I only saw the part where they kept badgering Tim Cook about like a screen time competitor app, and that's it. And I was just like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, they didn't get a whole bunch of who gotchas or like, ooh, gotchas. Like, but I thought that their questions were pretty well researched and for the most part, I think they did a much better job than the Bill Barr hearing.
Talk about China.
Gates looked less hungover. Their CEO.
Okay.
Sundar Pichai.
So you have Bezos, Cook.
It was all yes.
Okay.
Sundar. It was all Sundar Pichai. It was all CEOs. Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, and Sundar Pichai. Mm-hmm. So they swore in remotely because they're remote. And then it was like a 6-hour hearing. And for the most part, it was Congress trying to get people. It was like Congress like picking at 5 minutes at a time which CEO they wanted to roast for having a monopoly. And then it was like that CEO being like, we don't have a monopoly. What do you come on? There's so many companies better than us. There's so much competition we have. And that was pretty much the whole 6 hours. They were like picking apart individual pieces of the companies that were clear monopolies or potentially clear monopolies, and some emails and some specific new technology, old technology, buying up of competitors, all sorts of stuff. And then the CEO, like the Echoes in the house that are being sold for under cost because they're trying to have the market space. And the whole thing was just it was a funny dance.
So they took all these innovative leaders in American business, and then they quizzed them about what they do here in America.
Too good.
And they didn't really. Did they press at least at all on their relations with China and the factories there?
Yes, a little bit. So one part in particular, they asked one of the guys. I forgot to write his name down. He asked point blank. They asked probably like 6 to 7 different questions about China, and then one question into it, the congressman said, point blank, yes or no. I want to ask every single one of you. Do you think China steals technology and data from our U.S. companies? And the only person that said yes is Zuckerberg. He goes, yeah, it's been well documented they do. But like Tim Cook and Jeff Bezos were like,
they couldn't even say yes to that.
No, they said no, or not from our companies.
Did anybody ask if any of their products are made by the Uyghurs?
I didn't. I saw about 3.5 hours of the 6 hours. I didn't see that in the footage that I saw. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting. It was just like a funny song and dance where they're trying to like outsmart the CEOs of these, $1 trillion tech companies with, they did their research, but they're
trying to outsmart them, but they're also keeping kid gloves on at the same time. They're not pressing them on some of the more egregious likelihoods, like that there is actual like problems with the business that they're doing.
Well, they did cover a lot of good things. It's just whenever like they got too hard, Bezos's number one answer was like when he was getting got, he's like, oh, I'm not aware of this. I'll have to do some research and get back.
I'll look into it. I'll look into
it and get back to you. Well, that was Bezos's number one go-to, which I kept hearing over and over again. Zuckerberg's number one go-to when he was getting punked and Facebook was getting punked was he was like, Congressman, I don't believe you're characterizing this correctly. I think this is a mischaracterization.
Yeah.
He kept
well, that's classic Zuck.
He kept going back and forth. Yeah.
Zuck he takes the bait because he gets frustrated that they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and he is so scary smart
for sure.
That he's just like he's like Android brain is just.
You can tell
he wants to call them idiots. Yes,
he takes such delight in being like twice as smart as the people asking him questions.
Yeah,
he loves that.
Did he mention where he started Facebook?
No, he didn't. I don't think. Yeah, and Bezos started the book sales in a garage. But yeah, I mean, Bezos's go-to
Google also started in a garage.
Bezos's go-to instead of like calling him stupid.
Hard Factor also started in a garage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So did Dell, I think, or a dorm room as well. Dell, but Bezos's go-to instead of like looking at them like they're idiots and saying they're mischaracterizing was saying, yeah, that's part of a good business practice. When they were like, this is what you did this to get a bigger market share. He was like, yeah, that's what you do in business.
Right. That was also a stupid part. Yeah. People are accusing him like, oh, are you being aggressive with your business and money-making tactics? It's like, no, they're not. They're only the 4 most profitable CEOs in America and the world.
It's a for-profit company.
What the fuck are you talking about?
But a few of the gotchas were like Matt Gaetz, total bro Matt Gaetz asked Zuckerberg a question.
Gaetz did better today than he did on Bar, that's for sure.
Yeah, he looked better. He wasn't as hungover. He was on fire. Like this was like he was looking forward to this one. He asked like basically accused Facebook of playing favoritism to hiring and firing Democrats over Republicans. He called out Palmer Luckey, who was a high-ranking VR employee for Oculus that got bought by Facebook, and said Palmer Luckey got fired basically because he was donating money to an anti-Hillary Clinton campaign and tried to get Zuckerberg to admit to that, which like he kind of wouldn't. But then he accused Zuckerberg of lying under oath to Congress, like point blank, like committing a crime.
Also kind of empty though, because like it's just his.
Yeah, crime. It was. It's not a crime. It wasn't a crime.
Gates started some of his line of questioning out, which is like, gentlemen, would you agree that your companies share American values? And then he was like,
he was building a yes letter.
No one answered. He was like, yeah, absolutely, he's building a yes letter.
He's building a yes letter.
Okay, good to know that no one objects to that. Being that your companies have American values.
Gates was ready, man. But when he accused him of committing lying to Congress, Zuckerberg's face was priceless. He was like, he didn't have time to respond. And then he also got shellacked.
Gates goes, you could be lying, and I relent my time. And immediately stepped away.
He said, "I seriously think that you're lying to Congress."
It's true. And then it's like an ADD kid meeting someone he's interested in, like a baseball player. He's just firing off a question before he gets an answer.
That's Congress's biggest power in these hearings is they just can take the time back from and then mid-answer they're like, "And I take my time back."
Yeah,
I
reclaim my time. My time.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. They don't give a flying fuck what these people say. If they start getting good answers from them, they don't want to hear. They just relent their time or take their time back. Reclaim my time. So Zuckerberg also got shellacked for 2012 and 2014 emails to his execs at Facebook, basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, oh shit, these companies are really good. Let's just buy them before they become a problem, which is not allowed. It's like you can't really do that.
I mean, is it not allowed? Like,
it's not allowed to specifically state that. Like, you're not allowed to say that.
If you're at the pinnacle of the business, I get trust and
correct, antitrust.
But companies do that all the time by competitors.
Yes, well, of course.
Bill Gates must have been at home just drinking beers, laughing.
Well, Bill Gates was going through this in 1998. Microsoft.
I know, that's why I'm saying.
Microsoft, who is really the only other company valued of it over $1 trillion that should have been there, was not there. As well as Twitter's a lot below that, but Microsoft probably should have been there. He was there in 1998, last time this really happened. Georgia Representative Henry Johnson also made a remarkable turnaround from doing the worst job at the bar hearing to doing a pretty good job in this hearing, where he went after Bezos and Amazon for profiting off counterfeit items, something the Beeve knows about, basically saying,
fucked up.
You guys profit off counterfeit items, yes or no? And then Bezos was like, well, look, we have 1,000 employees or whatever that try to get counterfeit products off. He goes, but you do have counterfeit products. And he's like, yes, and that's a big problem. So he got that concession.
Bullshit. I'm really glad they brought that up.
And he's like, and you profit off it. And he's like, well, it's only a short-term thing. We're not trying to do that.
He's like, until we catch the
Who cares?
fraud.
Yeah, who cares if it's a short-term thing? You're profiting off of it.
Dude, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has lost no less than $5 million from
Amazon makes
costumes and shit on Amazon.
Amazon makes billions off of counterfeit products.
And we can't get them down. They're like, they give you the runaround.
There's too many third-party vendors that their model is set up for counterfeiting. Anyways, so that was a pretty good gotcha where Bezos was like,
that's what I'm saying.
He admitted that counterfeiting should not be a part of Amazon, and it is.
Those are the bigger issues, like where there's problems being created by these platforms that's like hurting American American
Google's the
people
same way.
Not
because even
Google
if you get a if you get a counterfeit item at Amazon, here's the thing: you can probably call them and they'll refund it. But how many people do that, and why do you have to go through that?
But that to me seems like way more legit than complaining about a competitor.
Correct. No, that was good.
Of a phone
that money's going overseas too.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah. Will, I thought he did a good job. He didn't do a good job at the bar thing, but Henry Johnson got Bezos dead to rights there. And then Bezos appeared to be dressed but he was only belly buttoned up. So I'm assuming he could have had his dick out, and if he'd stood up, it might have cost him half his wealth again.
He was hanging hog, definitely.
Yeah, he was hanging hog. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much like the highlights. It was just, you guys all have a monopoly, and they're like, no, we don't, or we'll look into it. We weren't aware of this. That was kind of it. The closing remarks from the House Committee Chair, David Cicilline, were pretty strong. He said, today we had the opportunity to hear from the decision makers from the most powerful companies in the world, and this hearing has made one fact clear to me. These companies as they exist today have monopoly power. Some need to be broken up. All need to be properly regulated and held accountable. So that doesn't mean shit. Like, they actually have to pass regulations.
Yeah.
But he is saying all four of you are monopolies. And to which I say, where you been, David? Yes, that's for sure. It was a hearing for 4 companies that have a combined valuation of 1/6 of our national debt, and a valuation of more than both rounds if the next round of stimulus package passes is combined. So those stimulus packages for the entire country, including all businesses and humans. So yeah, these places have monopolies for fucking sure. All 4 companies' stocks also were up over 1% at market close the day they had their hearings.
I mean, but what are they going to do about that? Regulating how they operate is what they need to do, not just complain that you have a monopoly. Like, again, to me, Congress falls flat as always, in my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, it was a little bit better than the bar hearing, but yeah, much ado about nothing.
Right. To me, they didn't ask the questions I would really like to hear the answers to. All right. Got to do a little bit of a troop update here, and it's 2020 style, so it's weird as fuck. And it includes federal agents deployed by Homeland Security inside the U.S. as well as actual military deployed outside the U.S. So first up in Portland, Oregon, Governor Kate Brown has reached a deal with the acting head of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. Great name for a Homeland Security guy. To
Great name in general.
Yeah, to remove federal agents from the city and let local teams of city and state police take over. So basically what's happened in Portland is there's been 62 straight nights of protests. Obviously, we've covered a lot of those, and they've only gotten worse since the feds arrived. So Chad Wolf is saying, okay, fine. We'll take the Homeland Security agents out. Portland and Oregon State Police can take over. And taking it to the internet, Big Ounce sent us a video of somebody tossing a homemade bomb over the fence barricade and onto the federal courthouse in Portland. And that was like the federal enclosure where they were trying to defend the courthouse. It's fucking insane. Like there's literally people just tossing homemade bombs over the barrier.
That's not good.
It lit the courthouse door on fire. So good call. Having the local team take it from here. And good luck, Oregon PD. You have a very busy second half of 2020 ahead.
Will, like, how long they've been there? They've been there like a week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been like 10 days, and it's like escalated in the last 10 days once they arrived, yeah.
So what was the point? They go out there, Portland didn't want them. It escalated, and then they
were trying to – well, so the point is that the Homeland Security agents are like they're part of this Operation Legend. I'm not sure if Portland was part of that, but basically the DOJ is putting out Homeland Security forces across the country to put an end to the rise in homicides that's existing across the country, across several states. So even though the agents, they dress exactly like military, but they're not military. They're Homeland Security. They're leaving Portland, but they're expanding as part of Operation Legend in other cities.
Well, the point is to restore peace, right? It's just it failed.
Correct.
The point's to restore peace, Pat. They're trying to restore peace, but then
when I say what is the point, I understand what I disagree. Actually, I think that the initial motivation might have been political, but regardless, it's like, wait a minute, they showed up there and now they're leaving.
I mean, with Portland and Seattle, there's all kinds of back and forth about motives and everything, because it's like two diametrically opposed local governments to the current administration.
The minivans to me seems like a bad tactic. Secret minivans doesn't seem like the best.
Well, I guess the excuse there is that they're saying you can't take a marked car in because
they'll get destroyed. Yeah, right. Yeah, which is bad. But
you're putting Avis's fleet in major jeopardy, and I doubt that they checked in with Avis and were like, "Hey, Avis, can we rent all your minivans?"
I was saying minivan salesmen are like the kings of summer this summer.
Yeah, man.
That's fucked up. The Homeland Security agents, they're leaving Portland, but they're expanding in Cleveland, Detroit, and Milwaukee as part of Operation Legend, Pat. That's what I was talking about. It's the DOJ initiative to bring the current wave of homicide increases across the nation to an end. And the operation was already in place in Kansas City, Chicago, and Albuquerque, so it's expanding to Cleveland, Detroit, and Milwaukee. I really hope that they don't have to keep expanding that operation, because that's just fucking horrible.
No, it's bad.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
And in more lighthearted troop news, the actual troops, the U.S. military, are making some big changes in Europe by moving their European headquarters from Stuttgart, Germany, to Mons, Belgium, to be co-located with other NATO forces in Belgium.
I love that. I hope they're going to start calling the base there the Mons Pubis.
The Mons Pubis?
Oh, yeah.
That is pretty sweet. In response to claims that the move is just to spite Germany, who's often at odds with the current Trump administration, Defense Secretary Mark Esper said that the intention of the move is to adapt to the current time and be more spread out across Europe to be able to deal with a less predictable Russia than before. So Russia's being less predictable. They got to adjust. And if you guys take a look at that map, NATO is in blue. Everybody with the peace agreement's in a different color. NATO is essentially North America and Europe. It's a treaty organization to keep peace, has peace agreements with other developed nations. Basically the thing that is like the mutually, hey, let's not destroy each other and end the world agreement people. So
good agreement. Good agreement.
NATO, not really too much in Africa, it seems like. Not a lot of treaties there.
Mostly working with the developed nations. So yeah, Africa has been largely left out.
Look, guys, I don't mean to butt in or like jump too far ahead, but when we get to my second story, none of the shit that we've talked about is going to matter. So it's all
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
As in the world is ending?
Yeah, we'll get to it. We're going to get to it soon.
What a tease.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the good news is that this move means thousands less Americans will be permanently stationed in Europe. Overall, as compared to before, more boots on American soil. Shout out ZVT and the troops. Support the troops.
All right, let's kick it over to the racism corner.
No.
Yeah. Do you guys remember during the Minneapolis protests and riots how the protesters burned down that AutoZone, sparking a national conversation and division about the Black Lives Matter movement and protesters and demonstrations in general?
Which
Yes.
AutoZone?
The one across from the
Minneapolis?
police station in Minneapolis.
Yes, like the
Yeah,
very
okay.
first, like the second night. Yeah, the first.
Right, where everyone was like, I just don't agree with what they're doing down there. Why are they burning down their own neighborhoods? Well,
The
it turns out,
AutoZone
guys,
is a step too far.
yeah,
Yes.
it turns out that the guy that kicked off the destruction of the AutoZone by smashing out the windows with a hammer was a 32-year-old white supremacist who, quote, wanted to sow discord and racial unrest by breaking out the windows and writing what he did on the double red doors, which I'm not going to read.
Well, he sure did that, didn't he?
Yeah. So he was the one that got the destruction there kicked off. Bad apple. In the video, guys, the man is dressed in all black and rocking a black umbrella, which is why he was cleverly dubbed Umbrella Man while they were trying to find out who he was. And he's like smashing out the windows.
Should have just called him Baby Dick Man. Or,
Yeah. Well, they didn't know how big his dick was at that time, but I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Pretty soon they can call him Cavernous Asshole.
Yeah, cab ass. Anyway, he was smashing out the windows in the AutoZone while a black citizen, who had just, by the way, gotten a $5 hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars, selflessly delayed chowing down on his piping hot pie, and instead tried to block Umbrella Man from doing what he was doing, and then kind of chased him off the scene. So kudos to that hero. That's tough.
While he was eating? Yeah, wow.
No, I mean, he had the pizza in his hand.
He was carrying the pizza.
Yeah,
but the Umbrella Man came back, I guess, or what? Or he had already.
No, Umbrella Man, like he went away. He could tell that he smashed out most of the windows and wrote some racial shit on the doors, but then he kind of got chased off. Anyway, guys, the suspect is a member of the Hells Angels, and he's an associate. He might not have cav ass because he's an associate of a prison gang called the Aryan Cowboys.
No! If he's in a prison gang, he's fine.
The Aryan Cowboys presumably think cowboying is best done by Caucasian people not of Jewish descent, and probably hate the movie City Slickers. We can assume those two things.
Billy Crystal really chapped their ass when he was riding on the horse.
It's their nightmare.
They hate all Mel Brooks productions as well.
Oh my gosh, Jewish guys on horses really gets them angry. Anyway, guys, let's kick it over to another instance of confused people throwing stones and making generalizations, but this time from the side that drives Priuses. A Michigan bed and breakfast has removed a Norwegian flag that they had hanging on a pole in front of their establishment after they received a dozen, at least, hateful emails from people who confused the Norwegian flag as the Confederate flag, which is pretty hard to do if you have a 7th grade education.
What state is this again?
This is in Michigan.
The same state. I'm telling you, it was. I'm pretty sure it was Michigan where they tore down the abolitionists statue.
That was Milwaukee. It was right next door.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
it was Wisconsin. Yeah,
it was Wisconsin. Okay, all right.
Yeah. These 12 people that send angry emails are even further fucking idiots when you consider that the name of the bed and breakfast is the Nordic Pineapple and happens to be owned and operated by someone named Kirsten Offennecker.
Jesus.
Yeah, I thought there was lots of Nordic, like people of Nordic descent in those northern states. Like you think everybody knows what those flags look like.
What the hell? What the hell are the Confederates doing in the Winter Olympics, and why are they in 3rd place?
That Confederate ski team, my God, they can move.
Oh man, I didn't know the Confederates took up curling. It's so hot in the South.
That's where they've been. They've been practicing winter sports.
Yeah, imagine how dumb you have to fucking be to drive by a bed and breakfast called the Nordic Pineapple and then get so pissed off because like these Nordic bastards are just propagating hate. I'm going to send an email. Guys, the couple who happens to be also the parents of 2 adopted black children were perplexed, to say the least, saying, quote, I don't see it because I grew up with the Norwegian flag. They just don't know what the fuck's going on there.
Yeah, they don't get it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, unfortunately, now they do. It doesn't look like it, but it kind of does, you know.
Yeah, they're both red.
Yeah. They got the color.
Same colors, but absolutely completely different design.
For sure. All right, guys. Like I said, none of that matters. Terrible news here.
I don't like the tone you're starting this out.
Literally the worst news possible, not exaggerating or being sarcastic. Mauro Bologna, fitting name for this guy, by the way, and Gerardo Aquino, 2 statistical researchers and total buzzkills, published a theoretical, important to note that word, theoretical study that got published in Nature and Scientific Reports that says due to deforestation mainly, an increase in population, we are looking at catastrophic collapse of the Earth in the next 2 to 4 decades.
Now, when you say catastrophic collapse,
yeah, we'll get into it.
What do you mean?
Come on. Also, what's a theoretical study?
Hey, we'll get into it. I'm going to tell you about it. The entire findings are essentially a real buzzkill as the thesis, or the whole point they were looking into. The hypothesis was based on data, models, and theories on figuring out the quickest way the Earth would be destroyed. So their whole paper was based on kind of a shitty outlook. And so here's why they think
not the guys you want to invite to your party.
No, imagine a dinner party
definitely
with these
not.
two.
Definitely not. They determined there's a 90% chance our species will collapse within decades, as in, Pat, like not even the beginning of the end, but like the end is like you're not getting past the next generation, according to these guys. They say it's not going to be carbon and gas in the air. Sorry, Will and Burger King and providing the cows with wheat grass or whatever the fuck.
Lemongrass.
Lemongrass.
Gonna work.
Yeah.
These guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
They're saying it's going to be too many humans taking the natural resources of Earth, mainly the trees. And even though we've been cutting down trees for what? I don't know how long, certainly hundreds of years. I don't know what the Romans were doing, but we've been cutting down trees for forever. And we've only cut down a lot. I will admit a lot, but we've cut down a third of the trees. There's still, it was 60 million acres, and now it's like 40 million acres left. They say that within 20 years, we're fucked. So
hey, I got a question for them. Have they seen all the studies that say that global population collapse is very, very possible, considering the people not having kids right now? And
they said it doesn't matter. They said it doesn't matter because it's too late.
Oh, it's too late. So even though we have nobody here, just the fact that we can't plant trees because we
already cut the trees. We already cut the trees down.
Okay, these guys.
So one thing that helped them come to this conclusion, which I find to be a bit below the belt, they did do a lot of mathematical equations and charts, but this one seems to be a little bit of a low blow, is they referenced Fermi's paradox. And Fermi's paradox started with a question from Italian physicist Enrico Fermi to his fellow physicist buddies about extraterrestrial life in 1950 when he asked them, where is everybody? And it led to a theory that's basically the devil's advocate to the Drake equation. The Drake equation being the positive outlook, or the likely outlook that there are tons of alien extraterrestrial lives. And there's a mathematical equation that says how many extraterrestrial life forms there are, probably based on, stars and planets and space and how big it is and shit. And the Fermi's paradox says, yeah, maybe you're right, Drake equation, but how many of those theoretical extraterrestrial life forms are intelligent? Like intelligent enough to space travel or send FRBs? Probably not a lot. And then it goes on to say that most likely all intelligent life can't help but destroy itself and its planet due to resource consumption, etc. So the reason we haven't seen anyone else is because they've already gone through their destruction of their planet.
Even though we see UFOs and we hear right now that they have UFOs.
One or two can slip in. Fermi says one or two can slip in, but it's, like the reason why we haven't seen a ton is because,
I fucking hate these two guys.
Yeah.
You just don't you don't want them running a train of UFOs on us.
Right. So a little bit of salt in the wounds, if you ask me, from Mr. Baloney and Mr. Aquino. But I agree we should slow the logging down a bit, I guess. I mean, yeah.
Don't tell that to Javier Bolsonaro, who's selling off the Brazilian rainforest.
Log jamming.
These guys need to just go tie themselves in front of trees in Brazil.
Could you believe that? They're like getting super excited about their paper. They're like, oh, you have 5 decades? I got 2.5 decades.
Well,
here.
it's gonna get you
5 years.
Yeah.
The paper is going to get you laid.
What?
I don't
telling
know.
people the world is going to end? How does that get you laid?
Dude. Well, what do you have to? Why aren't you going to fuck me if the world's going to end? What do you?
Girls love goth kids. Girls love depressed guys. Yeah,
the ultimate goth kids. Those two guys. All right, we got a short time. Let's move it on. I'm calling this section Gohmert Pile, and you'll see why. I laid into Congress pretty hard yesterday with their little theatrics show with Attorney General Bill Barr. And turns out one of them was even less impressive than he sounded on the floor on Tuesday when he was questioning Barr. And that's a difficult task to do. Texas Republican Louis Gohmert, who sounds like he's falling asleep while reading Trump's Twitter timeline when he talks, found out on Wednesday morning that he couldn't fly to Texas with President Trump because he's got coronavirus. And you get tested whenever you go to the White House.
If you're getting within 50 feet of Trump, you get tested.
Yeah, who did he talk to? We're very welcoming of people with coronavirus down here in Texas. The more the merrier.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a Texas rep. He was trying to come home, but he had already caught that D.C. corona before he could get on the flight. So not only does Louis Gohmert have COVID, he also had previously refused to wear a mask unless he got COVID, saying it was useless, presumably. And that's a shame because the day before his positive test result, when he was probably already positive with COVID, and he still wasn't wearing a mask when he was talking with AG Barr in the hearing room. So Gohmert Pyle just trying to infect the attorney general right before he lobs softball questions to Barr in his sleepy Texas draw, while Barr vigorously rubbed his freshly corona-infected hands all over his face. Gohmert Pyle, just an all-time bonehead. Taking it to the internet.
A real Gohmert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he easily has the creepiest press photo I've ever seen in my life. I think
he
drop
is
this
an
in here for you, Mark.
eight-year congressman, and East Texas, you might want to reconsider that. Taking it to the internet, Louis Gohmert Pyle is doing Zoom interviews galore, trying to blame his corona infection on the fact that he had caved and just recently started to wear a mask in the last 10 days, and said that is probably what gave him the virus when he was touching his mask. So apparently
he looks exactly like what a Gohmert Pyle.
This guy should have been wearing a mask a long time ago, if you ask me.
He looks hilarious. Gohmert Pyle.
Yeah, he went from being a complete fucking imbecile the day before when he was trying to infect the AG to the world's foremost doctor overnight, discovering that you can give yourself corona through your mask. It's pretty incredible stuff. Bill Barr supposedly had a coronavirus test on Wednesday. Hopefully he doesn't get it because half the combined IQ of the GOP would be in mortal danger. But at the time of this recording, the DOJ had declined to say if Barr had tested positive or not, or if he plans to quarantine. They just said that he had been tested. So, just all-time stupidity from Louis Gohmert Pyle, representative from Texas.
Yeah, and you guys
that's a soft corner for Gohmert.
Louis, but he's definitely if he was in a directory of babysitters, he would be your last choice if you were just going exclusively on his photo. All right, guys, the second coronavirus relief bill, a.k.a. CARES Act 2, the Karening, a.k.a. the HEALS Act, seems it isn't having an easy time making it through Congress, with many reports coming out that Republicans and Democrats are very far from agreeing on the terms of the bill. So tough news for anyone in America who are enduring financial strain, right? Or anyone in America. Earlier, Steve Mnuchin and President Donald Trump would support approving short-term legislations to allow more time for talks if the parties fail to strike an agreement. That's what Mnuchin said before Friday. The enhanced $600 per week federal unemployment benefit technically expires that day as well. So,
tomorrow.
It's not happening. Nancy Pelosi.
Well, they're not going to strike this deal, but they're going to. Are they going to fast track it through next week?
I mean, so they have two major issues, which I'm going to get to, where they're just really far apart on.
I think real quick for the average worker that's not a business owner, the average worker that doesn't make a combined over 150 or singly over 75, you're going to get the $1,200, and if you're unemployed, you're going to get unemployment plus $200 at a minimum when they figure it out. That's what's going to happen.
Both parties are about the $1,200 stimulus check. Hopefully Trump will extend the $600 unemployment benefit through Friday. If they can't figure it out, Nancy Pelosi said we will not be accepting that, saying that she wants a comprehensive bill. The main point of contention, guys, is the $600 per week federal unemployment insurance boost that the Democrats want to keep going into the next year, where the Republicans want to cut it to a $200 a week insurance unemployment.
That's the whole
boost.
thing. What's the overall? Did you happen to see a grand total price tag estimation for that?
$3 trillion versus $1 trillion. That's kind of the difference.
Significant.
I'm guessing that the unemployment will be unemployment plus 400. They'll meet in the middle.
Well, hold on, maybe, and I assume so. Honestly, guys, one of the bigger points, in my opinion, and a super interesting point of contention is liability protections for businesses, doctors, and schools, which Republicans are pushing for and Dems oppose. And Uncle Turtle Turkey Neck, Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said, quote, no bill will pass the Senate that doesn't have liability protection in it.
Right.
then saying Democrats would rather keep political issues alive than find bipartisan ways to resolve them. This liability issue is a huge deal, because that in a lot of instances, at least in my experience, like that's what's shutting down the film business. That's what's shutting down a lot of industries from coming back up, because they just can't take the risk of being legally responsible if someone dies from
so
getting
McConnell's
COVID.
saying he wants their liability waived. The schools,
Exactly.
right?
That's the idea. There was
Well, I
some,
mean, that seems like a logical step at this moment in time for many industries, like the film industry, if they're trying to recover from struggling so
I think
hard.
both parties have good things they want in. They need to just get it done. Like,
they got to get the shit done.
Keep the ones you really like, and then compromise a little bit and get it done.
I don't know if you guys saw Bernie's tweets, but another big thing a lot of people are pissed about is there's a lot of military spending in the bills. Trump's trying to apparently slip some things in that the Dems don't like, but I need to go through them a little bit more thoroughly.
You drowned in that pork barrel, I'm sure. These
I have
motherfuckers
trouble
just
sleeping.
Tagging on everything.
So Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer took a shot.
No one
back.
cares. Pay for the bombs. Pay for the planes. Give us the checks. No one cares.
Schumer said that the bill was, quote, littered with corporate giveaways and presidential pet projects, but did not include key aids such as rental, mortgage, and food assistance. And that's going to do it for Hard Factor, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully our Congress can do what the fuck we elected them to do and figure the fuck out how to help our Americans and quit arguing like a bunch of assholes. Well, people need serious help. You dickheads, please do something about it. Get it together, Congress.
Except for the ones that we interview and the 8 that want to be interviewed by us that we potentially interview. You guys are cool.
No.
And,
You have to answer
their
for
aides.
yourselves.
Well, we'll ask you questions.
We have a lot of aides that listen to this show, and that wasn't
Not your
directed at
fault
you.
if you
do
work
wanna
in their
talk to
office.
your bosses. Hey guys, if
That's
you
our
don't-
job to yell at their bosses. That's what we're doing.
That's right.
Yeah, well, hey, technically we're their bosses. We elected them. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already, please follow us at Hard Factor News. I am at Hard Factor Pat, at Hard Factor Will, and at Hard Factor Mark. And hell, we're doing 5-star reviews tomorrow, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
If you
Get them in
want your
now.
review-
Get them in now.
If you want your review read on air, just go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Whatever you type in there, we will read. You can do a birthday shout out. You can call us ugly. Doesn't matter. We're gonna read it.
You don't have to give them too many ideas.
You can ask my cat names.
What's our voicemail number? It's 512
270 1480.
1480. And have a great fucking day.